Thank you, and I guess it's a kind of a day for a history lesson. So I heard about active shooter drills. So that's a new generation thing. For you younger folk, there was earthquake drills. And for some of us that are long in the tooth, way back in the day, there were atomic bomb nuclear drills, where we taught young people what would happen when the nuclear bombs went off. The drills are very much similar, if not exactly the same. We had this philosophy back in the day of the arms race. If the Soviet Union got better armed and more armed, then we need to get better armed and armed. And the fact that we could annihilate them and send them into extinction, and they could do the same, that insanity we thought was a good policy. We thought arming ourselves was good policy. And when I hear that we should arm people in churches, what, everybody needs to have a gun in church? That we should arm teachers. Every teacher should have one. Should everybody on this floor have a gun? And I see as you look at some of your colleagues, the answer is probably no. But this insanity that we have to have more guns is inane to me. I just don't understand. And those of us that remember back in the nuclear time, when an air raid siren went off, it was the most traumatic time of your life because you didn't know if your existence would end that day. You would not see your parents. And what made it insane, if a nuclear device went off, I don't care what deaths you make, it would not have saved you from it. Very similar to what's happening when you have an active shooter come in. So if we're going to have this discussion, let's discuss this insanity about how many guns we need out here in America and that we need to ramp up. And how does that make sense like it made sense back then? We came to our senses. We started talking about reducing the number of nuclear weapons in the world so that right now, today, no one on this floor or our kids are worried about nuclear proliferation like we used to in the past. Because I think we started to become a little more sane. We started working real hard to reduce that ultimate threat. And hopefully we, not only in California, we've begun that conversation. And we're beginning to, hopefully the rest of the country understands that you can't ramp this up. It's not sustainable. And guess what? I agree we need to really look at making sure that criminals don't have weapons. But guess what? Some of these mass shootings were a good guy with a gun. So we also need to look at mental health. We need to do a comprehensive look at this, and it's not one bullet that's going to do it. We need to talk to people who actually have committed, like I have, gone to more prisons than I ever want to in my entire life, and actually talk to LWOP and people who've committed some of the most heinous crimes. And when you ask them what would have deterred them, it was not penalties. It was what some of my colleagues had mentioned about having someone there to deal with their poverty, to deal with the stress and the pain that they receive, being raped, living in conditions that none of us would ever have any of our children in. And so to just someone mentally not able to handle having a weapon in their hand at a very young age, just not being able to handle it. Let's really do have a real conversation so we can really reduce this and not do political stuff. Let's really come together, if we're really going to come together, and come up with the most comprehensive plan that anybody could look at and say, that's the way we need to go. I commend the author of H.R. 107 because this is the time that we come together to come up with solutions.